Welcome to e-commerce psychology, the deep dive that gets you smart, fast. Today, we're going to unravel the surprising stickiness of rhymes in marketing, something you've definitely encountered, scrolling or shopping online. This deep dive is powered by Growth Suite. Growth Suite helps you run smart discount campaigns on your store. Test it for free on your Shopify store. Just land on the Shopify App Store now and test it for free.
Exactly. Forget just catchy tunes. We're exploring what's called the rhyme as reason effect, which is, well, a fascinating quirk in how our brains process information. It actually makes rhyming statements feel inherently more truthful.
More truthful. Wow. And that feeling of truth, that can be a really powerful tool, especially in e-commerce, right?
Absolutely.
We've dug into this article, The Rhyme as Reason Effect in Memorable Marketing Messages, E-commerce Psychology, to kind of understand why rhymes have this persuasive edge and, how you, listening, can potentially use this to connect better with your customers.
Okay, so let's cut to the chase then. What exactly is this rhyme as reason effect?
Okay, so the core idea, sometimes it's called the Eaton-Rosen phenomenon. The basic idea is this. When we hear something that rhymes, our brains sort of tend to think it's more accurate or insightful, more so than if the exact same idea is, expressed without a rhyme. It's like a cognitive shortcut.
And the impact, well, it can be surprisingly strong. The article highlights that classic example, what sobriety conceals, alcohol reveals.
Right.
Versus the non-rhyming version, what sobriety conceals, alcohol unmasks. People consistently rated the rhyming one as way more accurate. We're talking around 22% higher in the studies.
22%. That's a huge difference just because of a rhyme.
Wow. That research, McGlone and Tofi-Bosch back in '99, it really seemed to nail this down. It's not just a feeling. There's actual solid evidence showing how this effect works.
What's really interesting, though, is why. Why do our brains have this, built-in preference? It's not just random. Right. And the article touches on this. Think way back. Before everyone could read and write, rhyming was actually crucial for remembering stuff, for sharing vital information, survival tips, stories, history.
Yeah, exactly.
Catchy rhymes were just way easier to pass down through generations orally.
Precisely. And it's not just some ancient thing either. The article points out how kids, across different cultures are naturally drawn to rhymes when they're learning to talk.
Oh, yeah, nursery rhymes.
It helps them grasp sound patterns, build that phonological awareness. It's really key for language development.
And then on a brain level, rhymes seem to create a stronger impact there, too.
Yeah.
The article mentions they activate language processing areas more extensively than non-rhyming text.
Right.
Forging these more robust neural connections, it's like our brains are just more engaged.
And it seems this isn't just limited to English or any one culture. While the specific types of rhymes differ between languages, the fundamental way our brains process and kind of favor these patterns seems pretty universal.
Okay, so this preference is deeply wired in us. That makes sense. So how can e-commerce businesses actually tap into this? What are the, concrete benefits of using rhyme in online marketing?
Well, when we look at the marketing landscape, especially online where it's so crowded, the advantages become really clear. The article emphasizes that rhyming slogans, they just stick in people's minds way longer.
Longer? How much longer?
We're talking maybe 2 to 3 times longer recall compared to similar non-rhyming ones.
Wow. Okay, in the online space, you're constantly fighting for attention, right? So that kind of memorability, that's gold.
It really is.
What other advantages does rhyme offer for e-commerce then?
Well, think about conversion rates. Tests have shown that rhyming headlines, even calls to action, can actually lead to higher click-throughs.
Really?
Yeah, and potentially more sales. That subtle feeling of rightness or fluency that a rhyme provides can actually nudge people towards taking action.
Interesting. So it's not just about being remembered. It can directly influence buying behavior. The article also mentions something about trustworthiness. Does rhyme make a brand seem more trustworthy?
That's a really fascinating aspect. It seems rhyming messages can be processed sort of subconsciously as more credible, more authentic even.
How so?
It's almost as if the perceived effort in crafting the rhyme signals a certain level of care or thoughtfulness. And we kind of associate that with truthfulness.
Okay, that makes a strange kind of sense. And in the long run, the article suggests those catchy rhyming slogans, they can become really valuable assets, right? Building brand recognition over time.
Exactly. Think about those jingles or slogans you still remember from years ago. They stick.
Yeah, definitely.
So in the constant noise of online marketing, anything that helps your message cut through, stay in people's minds, and maybe even subtly build trust, That's a significant advantage.
Okay, we've looked at the business benefits. That's clear. Now let's dig into the psychology. Why is rhyme so persuasive, especially for online shoppers who are often just quickly scanning? The article breaks this down into a few areas: how our brains process it, the emotional side, and of course, memory.
Right. Let's start with the processing part. The article mentions something called the Keats heuristic.
Ah, yes, from the poet. Beauty is truth. Truth, beauty. That idea.
Exactly that. So the pleasing sound, the sort of beauty of the rhyme, can trigger this mental shortcut. We're more likely to accept the message as true just because it sounds nice.
Huh, okay.
And closely related is processing fluency. This is a big one. Rhyming phrases are simply easier for our brains to process than non-rhyming ones with the same meaning.
Easier how?
Just less mental effort. And this ease of processing creates a subtle feeling of rightness. We then misattribute that feeling of ease to the message itself, thinking it must be correct or true.
It's like our brains think, hey, that was easy to understand, must be right. The article also talks about our love for pattern recognition.
Exactly. Humans are wired to look for patterns. It helps us make sense of the world. Rhymes provide this predictable sound pattern, and that satisfies this innate desire we have for order and completeness. It just feels satisfying.
Okay. And the last cognitive point was cognitive load reduction.
Yeah, basically, rhymes reduce the mental effort needed to process the information, which frees up our mental resources. Always a bonus when people are quickly scanning online content, right? They're not putting in deep thought usually.
Makes sense.
The article even brings up that incredibly powerful example from the O.J. Simpson trial. If it doesn't fit, you must acquit.
Oh, yeah. That line was everywhere.
The rhyme made it feel so intuitively correct, so memorable, regardless of the actual evidence. It really stuck.
Definitely a powerful example. Okay, now let's shift to the emotional impact of rhymes. The article mentioned positive affect.
Yes, the sort of musicality of rhymes, the rhythm and sound, can trigger subtle pleasure responses in our brains. This leads to positive feelings, which then get associated with the message, and by extension, the brand itself.
So it just makes us feel good.
In a small way, yeah. And the article also talks about perceived effort.
We touched on this a bit with trustworthiness.
Right. The fact that someone seemingly took the time and creativity to craft a rhyme can signal extra thought and care. This might increase the perceived authenticity or sincerity of the message, like they really mean it.
Okay, that makes sense. It suggests craftsmanship.
Another emotional aspect is comfort through familiarity. Rhymes often use familiar structures, familiar rhythms. This can create a sense of comfort and maybe even reduce skepticism, just because it feels familiar and safe.
Like an old song, it puts you at ease. And finally, under emotional impact, pleasure and prediction.
Exactly. When we hear the start of a rhyming phrase, our brain often anticipates the rhyming word.
Yeah, you kind of know what's coming.
And when you successfully predict it, boom, you get a little mental reward. A tiny dopamine hit, maybe. It's subtle, but it's a positive reinforcement loop. The article uses Red Bull gives you wings as an example of how this creates affinity.
Interesting. That association. Okay. Now let's explore why rhymes are just so incredibly memorable. This seems key. The article outlines several ways they boost memory.
Yeah, memory is where rhyme really shines. One key reason is enhanced encoding. Rhymes basically create multiple pathways for the information to get stored in our memory.
Multiple pathways.
After the sound, the meaning, and the rhythm. It's like hitting the save button in multiple formats, which strengthens the initial memory trace.
Okay, so it's hitting our memory from different angles. Makes it harder to forget.
Yeah.
The article also mentions retrieval advantages.
Yes, those rhyming structures act as powerful cues when we try to recall the information later. It's like having a built-in mental hook that makes the information much easier to grab when you need it.
And then there was the phonological loop. What's that about?
The phonological loop is basically the part of our short-term working memory that deals with sound and verbal information. Think of it like the little voice in your head repeating things. Rhymes engage this loop more effectively. They're easier to rehearse mentally, which leads to stronger memory formation.
So we're kind of subconsciously repeating the rhyme in our heads more easily.
Pretty much. And the big payoff, long-term retention.
This is the really impressive part.
Absolutely. Studies consistently show that rhyming information tends to be retained significantly longer than non-rhyming equivalents. We're talking potentially decades. The article uses those childhood rhymes like 30 days has September.
Yeah, I still use that one.
Exactly. It's a perfect example of this lasting memorability. It just sticks.
It's amazing how effective that is. Okay, so the psychological basis seems really strong, but what does the actual scientific research show about the rhyme as reason effect in, like, controlled studies?
The article definitely delves into that. It highlights several key studies, naturally mentioning McGlone and Tofi-Bosch from '99 again.
Right, the foundational work.
Yeah, the one that really identified and clearly demonstrated the effect.
And the consistent finding was that rhyming statements were seen as about 22% more accurate, right, compared to the non-rhyming ones.
Exactly. And importantly, this finding has been replicated, has been shown in different studies using various experimental setups, comparing different groups of people, and also looking at responses within the same individuals exposed to both types.
Okay, so it's robust.
And on top of that, there's neuroimaging evidence. Brain scans actually show that rhyming content activates those reward and language processing areas we talked about earlier.
So our brains literally light up differently for rhymes. Wow. What about research specifically focused on marketing applications?
Yeah, the article points to research published in places like the Journal of Advertising. These studies found that rhyming slogans were rated anywhere from, say, 18% to 36% more persuasive than non-rhyming slogans with the identical meaning.
But that's a significant boost in persuasiveness just from the rhyme.
Huge. And they also scored higher on things like likability, originality, and of course, memorability, all crucial factors in advertising success.
And it seems this isn't just limited to selling like soap or cars.
That's right. The effect has been observed in both commercial advertising and in social messaging campaigns, like public health announcements. Though the strength of the effect can definitely vary depending on the specific context and the audience.
Sure.
And crucially, for building a lasting brand, some longitudinal studies, ones that track slogans over time, show higher long-term recall for those that rhyme.
So it's definitely not just a fleeting gimmick. It has staying power. Now, the article was fair. It also touched on limitations. It's not like a universal magic bullet, is it?
No, definitely not. It's important to understand the boundaries here. The article notes that the persuasive advantage of rhymes can diminish quite a bit when people are actively encouraged to really think critically about the message.
Ah, okay. So if you scrutinize it, the truthiness effect might fade.
Exactly. Although, interestingly, the memory benefit often still persists even then. There are also individual differences, cultural variations in how strong the effect is. And it tends to work better in some contexts, like for more casual, everyday consumer products, than maybe for, say, complex financial services.
Understanding those nuances seems key to using rhyme effectively, not just throwing it everywhere. Okay, so let's get really practical. How do you actually go about crafting effective rhyming marketing messages for an e-commerce business? The article breaks down some building blocks, language stuff, and ways to combine rhyme with other techniques.
Right. Let's start with the basics, the building blocks. End rhymes where the last words of lines rhyme generally pack more punch than rhymes happening inside a line, right? The example given was the beer that made Milwaukee famous. Classic end rhyme.
Yeah, end rhymes feel more definitive, more memorable usually. Rhythm and meter are also really important, aren't they? The article pointed to maybe she's born with it, maybe it's Maybelline. That rhythm is unmistakable.
Totally. That consistent rhythm enhances the rhyme's impact significantly. And keeping it concise seems smart, too. The article suggests an optimal length is somewhere around 5 to 9 words for these rhyming slogans or taglines.
That makes sense. Long enough to say something, short enough to remember easily. And what about the type of rhyme, like perfect rhymes versus near rhymes?
Yeah, perfect rhymes like bright and right generally tend to be more effective, more satisfying to the ear than near rhymes or slant rhymes like home and gone, at least when it comes to that persuasive effect. The quicker picker-upper for bounty is a great example of a strong, perfect end rhyme that just works.
Okay. Now, thinking about the specific words you choose, keeping the vocabulary simple seems important, like a diamond is forever.
Definitely. Simple, clear language is generally more accessible and sticks much better, especially online. The article also mentions using other sound devices, like consonants, repeating consonants, or assonants, repeating vowels, to kind of boost the effect. They give "don't dream it, drive it" as an example. You hear those repeated D and I sounds.
Right, adds to the musicality.
And ideally, the rhyme should really connect directly to your brand or its main benefit. Beans means Heinz. It's just genius for that. Instantly links the product and brand.
Yeah, unmistakable. Cultural resonance can also play a role, like have a break, have a Kit Kat, taps into a shared idea.
Exactly. Leveraging that shared cultural knowledge can amplify the effect. And you mentioned, oh, what a feeling, Toyota. Earlier, simple, brand-related, clear rhythm works perfectly.
Okay. Now, the article also discussed how you can make rhymes even more powerful by combining them with other persuasive writing techniques.
Yes, layering these things can create a really memorable and impactful message,
Mm,
like using alliteration, repeating initial sounds along with rhyme. Example, don't be vague, ask for Hague. That double sound association hits harder.
okay, alliteration plus rhyme. What else?
Using metaphor with rhyme, we already mentioned Red Bull gives you wings.
Mm.
The rhyme reinforces the metaphorical idea. Repetition combined with rhyme. Think, double mint gum,
Duh.
double your pleasure, double your fun. Reinforces the double idea through both rhyme and repetition.
Okay. And parallelism.
Yeah, using similar sentence structures along with rhyme, like if you want to get ahead, get a hat. The parallel structure enhances the rhythmic feel and the rhyme's impact.
So it's like building layers of persuasion.
Exactly. The few, the proud, the Marines, uses that strong parallelism and rhythm, maybe a near rhyme with proud, to create an incredibly powerful and memorable slogan, even without a perfect rhyme.
It's about the overall effect.
Okay.
These combinations can be really effective. So how can e-commerce businesses actually put these rhyming principles into action? Day-to-day marketing. The article had some tangible examples.
Let's start with the obvious one, crafting those memorable brand slogans or taglines. The article suggests a process. Start by brainstorming rhyming words and phrases that really connect to your key product benefits or your brand promise.
Right. Brainstorm first.
Then, and this is crucial, test those ideas with your target audience.
Testing is absolutely key, isn't it? You can't just assume it works.
No way. You need to see how well the slogans are remembered, how persuasive people find them, and maybe most importantly, do they actually fit your overall brand image and voice?
Yeah, a funny rhyme might not work for a serious brand.
Exactly. And remember, a really effective slogan can stick around for years, even decades. It's a real asset, so it's worth investing the time to get it right. The article contrasted a kind of generic potential slogan for VW with their actual, much more engaging drivers wanted. Big difference.
Okay, slogans make sense. Now, how can we apply this to the digital marketing space? That's where most e-commerce businesses live.
The rhyme as reason effect is definitely relevant online. The article mentions that rhyming content on social media, for instance, tends to get shared more often.
More shares? How much more?
Potentially quite a bit, like maybe 40% or more in some cases mentioned. Think short, punchy rhyming updates or captions, they grab attention.
Okay. What about something really simple, like email subject lines?
Surprisingly, yeah. Using rhyme there can actually be quite effective. A/B tests have shown that rhyming email subject lines can sometimes boost open rates.
Huh. Like what?
Maybe something like last chance to dance for a sale or a deal you'll feel, something short and catchy. It helps it stand out in a crowded inbox.
Interesting. It's a simple tweak. What about SEO? Can rhyme play a role there?
It's more of a balancing act with SEO.
Yeah.
You still absolutely need to prioritize relevant keywords in your page titles, your main headings for searchability.
Yeah,
That comes first.
right.
However, incorporating rhyming subheadings within your actual content, like blog posts or product descriptions, can make it more engaging and readable for the user, which Google also likes.
Okay, so use it for engagement within the content. And video marketing is huge now.
Absolutely. Using rhyming taglines or hooks, maybe at the beginning or end of your videos, can significantly improve how well your main message is recalled later.
Mm-hmm.
The article suggested a potential recall increase of maybe up to 40% from rhyming hook. Dollar Shave Club's Shave Time, Shave Money is a perfect example. Short, rhyming, benefit-driven, great for video and digital ads.
Okay, so it's about strategically weaving rhyme into different customer touch points. The article also touched on making sure it's consistent across channels, right?
Yes, that consistency is vital. Maintaining a core rhyming message, or at least the spirit of it, across your website, social media, emails, ads, it reinforces your brand identity.
And you might need to adapt it slightly.
Yeah, you might adjust the length or wording depending on if it's for audio, like a podcast ad, versus visual, like a banner ad. Typography can even play a role visually. And obviously, if you're marketing internationally, you need to think carefully about translation or maybe creating culturally specific rhymes.
Right.
But ultimately, it should all feel like it's coming from the same brand voice. Nationwide is on your side is such a classic example of a consistent rhyming message used effectively everywhere for years.
Okay. Theory is one thing, but seeing real-world examples really helps solidify it. The article shared quite a few success stories.
Yeah, across different industries. Let's maybe look at a few that highlight how it's applied differently.
Okay. Consumer products first. That seems like a natural fit.
Totally. Think Pringles. Once you pop, you can't stop. The article notes how incredibly effective that was, almost irresistible.
So memorable.
Reebok used internal rhyme with I am what I am
Yeah.
to build this strong, individualistic brand identity.
Right.
And Jell-O's watch it wiggle, see it jiggle, that rhyme perfectly captured the product's unique, playful appeal.
Yeah, it's fun.
Even Oreo's Milk's favorite cookie. While technically using assonance that repeated a sound, it still shows the power of sound patterns in making a tagline stick.
Those are all great examples. They've really stood the test of time. What about in service industries? Does it work there too?
Absolutely. Allstate's, you're in good hands with Allstate. That internal rhyme helps build trust, a feeling of security, which is perfect for insurance. H&R Block used Get Your Billions Back America, a clear rhyming promise about their service benefit. Southwest Airlines, want to get away. So simple, implies ease, desire, incredibly effective.
Yeah, very evocative.
And remember those education connection ads? That jingle-like rhyme made them instantly recognizable, maybe annoyingly so for some, but effective.
Huh. Yeah, definitely memorable. Okay, and it's not just older traditional companies, right? Digital brands are using this too.
Oh yeah, definitely. Slack's tagline, Where Work Happens, uses that nice assonance to create a memorable, definitive statement about their platform.
Okay.
Squatty Potty had that playful rhyme, the stool for better stools. It uses humor and rhyme to make a potentially awkward product much more approachable and memorable.
That was clever marketing.
We already mentioned Dollar Shave Club's Shave Time, Shave Money, perfect for their direct-to-consumer model.
Oh, right.
And even MailChimp with Send Better Email uses a subtle internal rhyme to make their message stand out simply.
These examples really show how versatile rhyme can be across different sectors and tones. But okay, you implement a rhyming slogan or campaign. How do you actually know if it's working? How do you measure success?
Good question. The article touches on both quantitative number-based and qualitative ways to gauge the impact.
Okay, quantitative first.
You can run recall tests. Ask people, what's the slogan for brand X? See if the rhyming version is remembered better. The article suggests recall can be 30–70% higher sometimes.
Wow, that's measurable.
You can A/B test different versions of ads, landing pages, or subject lines, one rhyming, one not, and directly compare conversion rates, click-through rates.
Right, hard data.
You can also track brand association metrics over time. Are people associating your brand more strongly with the key benefit mentioned in the rhyme? And look at long-term brand equity measures. Geico's 15 minutes could save you 15% or more is a prime example. You can bet they've tracked its recall and impact for years.
Definitely. Okay, and qualitatively, how do you measure the softer stuff?
You can use focus groups. Get small groups of your target audience together and discuss their reactions, feelings, and interpretations of your rhyming messages.
Get direct feedback?
You can analyze social media sentiment. Are people talking about your rhyming slogan positively, negatively, ironically? What's the vibe? In-depth interviews can explore consumers' understanding and feelings more deeply. And even just observing how people talk about your brand organically, does the slogan pop up in everyday conversation? Like the Pringles slogan becoming a common saying, that's a huge qualitative success indicator.
Yeah, that's the dream.
And like any marketing strategy, it's not set it and forget it. It's about continuous testing and refinement.
Absolutely. Keep A/B testing different rhyme variations. Maybe use multivariate testing if you're changing multiple elements in a campaign. And constantly refine your approach based on what the data, both quantitative and qualitative, is telling you. Look at performance across different customer segments, too.
Right. Even a hugely successful, long-running campaign like McDonald's, I'm loving it, while maybe more rhythm and sound than pure rhyme, you can be sure it's been constantly tested and adapted in various forms and markets over time.
Constant learning. Okay, this brings us to ethics. The article rightly raises some ethical points, doesn't it? Rhyme is persuasive, so.
Exactly. With great power comes great responsibility, right? The main concern is using the persuasive power of rhyme to make dubious or misleading claims seem more truthful than they actually are.
Yeah, the truthiness effect could be misused.
So businesses need to balance persuasion with responsibility. Ensure the core message is truthful, avoid exaggeration or misleading implications just because it rhymes well. Sometimes consumer education might be needed to counter potential misinterpretations. And of course, adhering to advertising regulations and standards is crucial.
So use it wisely. The article also talked about when not to use rhyme or when to be cautious.
Right. It's not always appropriate. Consider the product category for very serious matters, like maybe certain health conditions or complex financial planning. A cutesy rhyme might seem inappropriate or trivialize the issue.
Yeah, tone deaf.
Sensitive topics require careful handling. Cultural sensitivity is also huge. A rhyme that works in one culture might fall flat or even offend in another. And fundamentally, you need to balance memorability with substance. A catchy rhyme is useless if it doesn't convey a meaningful message or if it overshadows the actual product benefits.
Good points. So for someone listening who's thinking, okay, I want to try this, what are the key steps to developing their own rhyme marketing strategy?
The article provides a pretty solid framework. First step, assessment and strategic planning.
Hmm.
Look at your current messaging where it could rhyme potentially fit. Audit what you're doing now.
Okay, assess first.
Analyze your competitors.
Hmm.
Are they using rhyme? How can you do something different or better?
Know the landscape.
Make sure it's compatible with your established brand voice. Don't subtly introduce goofy rhymes if your brand is super serious.
Right, brand fit.
And consider your audience. How receptive are they likely to be? Maybe test the waters.
Then comes development.
Yeah, the creative development and implementation process. Have a framework for brainstorming. Maybe focus on benefits first, then find rhymes, encourage collaboration, get different perspectives. And definitely have some quality control to filter out rhymes that are just bad, awkward, or forced.
Yeah, avoid the cringe factor.
Then plan carefully which channels you'll use it on and how.
And finally, long-term management.
Exactly. Monitor its effectiveness continuously, like we discussed. Have a strategy for potentially refreshing or evolving the rhyme over time if needed. Stay aware of marketing trends, and treat your really successful rhymes as valuable brand assets that need protection and management. M&M's melts in your mouth, not in your hand. That's a classic asset.
Great framework. Okay, one last thing the article touched on. The future. How might this evolve?
Yeah, it's interesting to speculate. Could AI get really good at generating effective marketing rhymes? Probably. How will rhyme work with voice search optimization? Will saying a rhyming phrase help trigger certain results? Maybe. Could you
Interesting.
see more visual rhyming in design? Or cross-mobile applications, combining sound and visuals in rhyming ways? It's an area to watch.
Fascinating possibilities. Okay, let's try and bring this all together then. What's the core message from our deep dive today?
I think the key takeaway is pretty clear. The rhyme as reason effect is real. Using rhyme in your marketing messages can make them significantly more memorable and, crucially, more believable.
And this isn't just like a fun trick. It's grounded in how our brains work, supported by research. For e-commerce businesses, this offers a genuinely powerful tool.
Right. A tool to boost brand recall, potentially increase those important conversion rates, and build that lasting brand recognition in a very crowded marketplace.
And as we've stressed, the key is applying it strategically, thoughtfully, making sure your rhymes are authentic, they fit your brand, and they actually resonate with your audience. Avoid forcing it.
Exactly. It's about harnessing this inherent cognitive bias, this love for rhyme that we all seem to have, to create more impactful and memorable connections with your customers.
So for you listening, the final thought might be, where could you potentially weave even subtle uses of rhyme into your brand messaging? Your emails, your social posts, maybe even your main tagline.
Yeah, how could that little bit of rhythm and rhyme make your brand just a bit stickier, a bit more persuasive in the minds of your customers? It's definitely a tool worth exploring.
Absolutely. Don't underestimate the power of a simple rhyme. Ready to craft memorable marketing messages for your e-commerce store. Growth Suite on the Shopify App Store offers tools to help you create and test rhyming slogans and taglines that leverage the power of the rhyme as reason effect. Test it for free on your Shopify store today. And that brings us to the end of this deep dive into the fascinating world of rhyme in e-commerce psychology. Thanks so much for tuning in.
Thank you for joining us. Until next time.